Welcome, Narad, to Savitri Foundation. We have been having a very enjoyable time, very profitable time also, with the citation of several things connected with Savitri by you. But today I would like to ask you a couple of questions regarding the aspects of poetry in Savitri. Of course, Savitri has infinite dimensions in every respect, but maybe we can briefly speak something about the poetry in Savitri. Can you please tell us something about it?
My first connection with Savitri was more than 50 years ago. And I remember being in the ashram. I had met Purani, and he had helped me greatly with Savitri. And then my friend Madanlal Himatsinka gave me the first copy of Savitri.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, another man gave me Kazansaki's Odyssey,
Oh, I see.
which is 33,000 lines.
Yeah,
Savitri
right.
is only 24,000.
Yeah.
But Kazantzakis wrote in Greek, and it was translated.
Yeah.
So Savitri is the longest poem written in the English language.
Yeah.
I read through the Odyssey completely, and then I opened Savitri, and I never opened the Odyssey again.
Oh, I see.
Savitri was such a revelation to me.
Yeah.
It vibrated with light.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning for me.
Yeah.
And 51 years later, each time I open it, there is new light.
Yeah. Well, you were saying that it vibrates with light. So you are drawn more towards this rhythmic aspect. Can I say that?
For me, it is not only the rhythm, but it is the perfect combination of words in an uplifting of the English language that we have never seen before. Mantric in its power, its force, that somehow enters into you and begins a transformation. One should read it every day.
Yeah, that is very true. Do you think that one should have regular hours for reading it?
Well, that I can't say, because now I can be walking through a field or working in the garden, and the lines come to me at any time of the day and at every time.
That's wonderful. So Savitri has entered into you.
Yes, sir.
Very good. There cannot be anything greater than that. Yeah. But see, one of the things which I am asked at times is, why did Srimandu write in English and not in an Indian language? Would you like to say something about that?
From the age of 7 to 21, he was educated in England, as we know.
Of course,
He read all the great poetry of that time. He read Goethe in German. He read Virgil. He read Homer. He read all the English poets. In the original languages. And English, I feel, is such a growing language that it is the language of the future. although my dear friend Sampadananda says that India's first language still should be Sanskrit.
Yeah, yeah.
But for a world understanding, Savitri is above all the poetry I have ever read.
Yeah.
And I have read thousands and thousands of works of poetry.
Yeah.
Nothing touches it.
Nothing touches.
There are moments in different poems when one feels a higher influence, a descent of something in a line or two.
Yeah.
And in the future poetry, Sri Aurobindo gives us those lines.
Yeah.
But Savitri stands alone.
That's true.
At the apex of humanity.
Yeah, that is very true. Now, of course, Savitri is an epic. It means that it has different glowing hills or different beautiful islands of different structures, qualities, different features. What I'm basically asking is, do you see in Savitri the presence of classical elements?
Absolutely. From all languages, from all poetry, and from the Vedas, especially. The Upanishads.
That's right,
Greek. Even Russian, he will use a word, ukase in Russian. And it's just a richness that we have never seen the likes.
That is very true. And also, of course, the lyrical.
Perhaps that's the most, the closest to my heart.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know it. So you would more fall upon that than the classical?
I think so.
You would say?
I think so.
All nature at beauty's festival?
Yes.
But do you also see the traits of modern poetry in Savitri?
Certainly. I'm not a poet.
Yeah.
But
you are a poet.
Well, you may say that, but I don't know anything about the structure of poetry. What has come to me, I feel, has come as a grace from Sri Aurobindo. And I just wrote down what came in some 1,600 poems. But I could not call myself a poet. So I'm not capable of judging on a poetic level.
No, I was asking specifically about the modern
okay, in modern poetry, I think that one day poets will look to Savitri as their inspiration to bring down a new poetry. Right now we have lost the sense of meter, we have lost the sense of lyricism, of rhythm. I think poetry's, and many of the other arts, music, are in a down stage right now and have to be awakened to a new consciousness.
That is true, Well, I will ask one more question. Do you see a distinct difference in the poetic quality of the first part of Savitri and the second half of Savitri?
My dear friend Temi Masalawala used to say that Book 1, Canto 1 was the epitome of Savitri.
That is true.
For me, Book 1, Canto 4, I can't stop reading. The secret knowledge is for me so extraordinary. But all through, there is the touch of the divine afflatus. And so I'm not competent to judge or to even answer that question, because I could go to Book 11 and I could be lifted to supreme heights.
That's true, You see, my point was again slightly different, in the sense that if you take the first three books, up to the book of the Divine Mother, and the remaining parts of Savitri. The first three books, Sri had practically written in his own hand, and there are a number of drafts. For instance, the opening canto itself, there are something like 25 drafts. The first part was written by him in his own hand, and the other parts, part 2 and part 3, were essentially by dictation. So writing and dictating would also get reflected in terms of the poetic aspect, poetic quality.
But look at book 6.
Yes.
The Word of Fate.
Word of Fate, yes.
The Problem of Pain.
Yeah.
Book 11.
Yeah.
And as he said to his scribe,
yeah,
there were only 2 books.
Yeah.
In which he said, we'll see about that
about
after.
Later, yeah.
The epilogue and, of course, the Book of Death.
Yeah, yeah.
Which he left. And Mother said, who is to say that he didn't leave things exactly as he wanted to?
Where they have to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But you're more of an expert as to...
well, no, still...
as to the second half.
Still, you see a difference between the first part and the second part in terms of his the poetic inspiration.
He said in his letter to Amal Kiran that he wanted everything to be of a perfect perfection.
That's right, yeah.
For me, it's a perfect perfection.
All through. of various colors. Sometimes gold, sometimes orange, sometimes blue, sometimes green. It is something very remarkable, I would say, that you had such a long association with Savitri. You have grown into Savitri. Savitri has entered into you in every respect. Your physical, your vital, your mental, your soul, of course, your spirit, and it works in its own manner. But each time you read it again, do you see something else happening which didn't happen to you earlier?
Absolutely.
Why?
Why? Because perhaps Mother opens something.
Mother keeps on constantly opening. So what does it mean that it is not a question of 51 years? It is a question of constantly growing into Savitri?
Yes, it is.
Can you say that way?
Yes, we can say that.
Would you recommend the same thing for everybody?
Yes, because there is no end to the revelations of Savitri.
Savitri, yeah.
Not only that, but the fact that the mantric force enters into this physical body.
I think that is the most important point.
And vibrates within it.
Yeah.
Opening us up to higher worlds and beginning its transformation. I don't read Life Divine.
Yeah.
I don't read synthesis anymore.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's a failing.
Yeah.
I don't read essays on the Gita.
Yeah.
I simply read Savitri.